Bold, bold perceptions is back. We have a bold guest. This is one of the boldest guests I've had in a while. Um, Flat Earth Dave. He's in the building. He's got the Flat Earth screen behind him. I really like this. It's kind of calming, but I feel like this topic, Dave, is not going to be calming. It might be a little unnerving for some of you. And Dave, I just asked you, but how long have you been on this? How long? What led you to this?
2015 was the year that I got exposed to flat Earth, and just like any other sane person, I thought it was insane. I was dragged in like a teenager being dragged into a pit of hungry alligators. I didn't want to look. You know, people sent me. I was doing a conspiracy podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, and we're looking into all of the stuff that's going on in the world. And then people are like, "Hey, David, you looked into flat Earth?" I'm like, "Haha, it's funny." You know, and then it kept coming, And so you're banned from our social media. You're banned from, you're not even allowed to listen to our podcast anymore. You're so stupid. And then finally, somebody that I really trusted said, Dave, I think the earth might be flat. And I'm like, oh, Sophia, not you too. And she goes, here, watch these two videos. And I watch these videos and I'm like, all right, this is bullshit. I'm just gonna debunk this shit. So I started researching. And that was back when you would research on YouTube and YouTube would go, oh, here, watch this, all good stuff. Now, if you Google flat Earth, you end up at the Flat Earth Society. Okay. The Flat Earth Society is something Obama plugged a half a dozen times during his reign. And they give you stuff, like you're a disc floating in space with other round planets. Nobody believes that. Flat Earth Society says that gravity is because the Earth is rising at 9.8 meters per second. No flat earther believes that. That's just what globe believers believe. Flat earthers believers believe. And that's just all insanity. That's all gaslighting. That's all straw man. And none of us believe any of that. If what people that hate this topic, if flat earth was what they think it is, I would laugh at that. I would be laughing at them too, but we don't. It's not what it is. So that's how I got into it. And since then, everything has changed. You know, we don't live on a spinning ball flying through an infinite space vacuum. That's just ridiculous. As a matter of fact, I'm offering 100 Bitcoins. I have a 3 Bitcoin challenge, 1 proof of the globe. You get 3 Bitcoins. I have another challenge, 100 Bitcoins. If you can come up with anything that's dumber than the globe model. There's nothing. Once you understand the ridiculousness. Let me tell you a quick story. Okay. Quick story. Once upon a time, this is the official story. This is what you have to believe if you believe you live on a globe. Once upon a time, there was nothing. And then it was smaller than a tiny grain of salt, whatever. And then it exploded and became everything. Cool story. Hold on. Let me put on my cool story bro glasses. All right. And then it became everything. And then all of the rocky bits started coming together and turning, they started sticking together and they got more and more mass, which attracted other ones in. And then all of the gas turned into gas balls. All the gas turned into gas balls. And they got so big that they burst into flames and they started to nuclear fission or whatever they claim it does. And they were able to hold on to the rocky balls. And in between, they left a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. So now we have burning gas balls in a vacuum holding on to rocky balls. And then the gravity from the burning gas ball can only hold on to the rocky planet ones, but it can't hold on to the moon ones because the moon ones are only held on to by planets. This is all just pseudoscience, ridiculous nonsense. Gravity is one of the biggest jokes of all, but that's just the beginning. It's jaw-dropping information. I'm sure you have questions.
Well, my jaw was dropped because so from my perspective here, let me just get the audience a background. I've never really thought about the possibility of flat Earth seriously, nor have I really dug into why the Earth would be, could be, whatever you want to use, a globe. Obviously,
they don't train us. They don't train us to think. They indoctrinate us before we can talk. All of our children's programming, all of the books, all of the movies, it's all globe indoctrination. We'll get into why, but go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
So I was going to ask why, what benefit does it serve? Because if you believe in, I do think that reality is sold to us in a certain way. specific norms, specific cultural things. It's all sold to you for some sort of reason. I don't know why. I'm not the all-knowing force, but what purpose does giving us the idea of the globe serve
Yeah.
in this?
So there's many purposes, and we'll get into that. But quickly, if the flat Earth isn't a disk floating in space that cats can push everything off the edge by now, if it was flat, dumbest meme ever. What is it? So large bodies of water at rest lay flat. Scientifically testable, provably flat. Yes, a drop of water is a sphere, a circle-ish, but anything bigger than a 5-gallon bucket of water lays flat, period. But if you had a 5-gallon bucket of water and I got rid of the bucket, what happens to the water? Goes away, right? So if we had a pond and I got rid of the edges of the pond where the land was higher than the water, what happens to the water? It's gone. Water relentlessly seeks the ultimate base level. We live in what I call the Antarctic Basin. Antarctica is not a continent at the bottom of a spinning ball. They tell you Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. That's weird. Maybe that's why it's at the bottom. The ball spins because, I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. Antarctica is not a continent at the bottom of the ball. It's the shoreline that surrounds our world pond. All of the continents are surrounded by water, but all of the water needs a container, and that container is the higher land of Antarctica. If Antarctica wasn't there, all the water would just flow away. I don't know where it would go because I don't know what's out there. Antarctica is bigger than all of the oceans and all of the continents combined. It is off limits to everybody. Since the year 1959, the treaty goes into the year 2041. It's the only treaty in the history of all history that hasn't been broken, right? In 1959, when they put the treaty in place, Admiral Byrd had gone out there and said he found land bigger than the United States, filled with resources that no human has ever set eyes upon. And meanwhile, while we're having war after war after war, fighting over resources, everyone just ignores it and says, oh, no, nobody can go there. We have to protect the penguins.
What kind of resources were these?
Coal, uranium, gold, silver, everything, gas, oil, everything. So it's just laden. It's just more land. I mean, it's bigger than the rest of the known world combined. It could be 1,000,000 times bigger, right? So what's out there? Well, no one's allowed to go beyond 60 degrees south. You can spend $20,000, $50,000 to go on a short little vacation. They'll bring you to the little peninsula there, which is bigger than some countries. And they'll show you some penguins and some icebergs. They'll show you a ceremonial South Pole, and then they'll kick you out. No one's allowed to explore the outer space, right? But then if you're looking back through time, every culture talked about a flat enclosed world with more space, more land. There's a Japanese map from 10 centuries ago that showed like 30 other continents beyond the shoreline of Antarctica. So what would maybe we have Antarctica is just a ring around us. That's where the ice wall comes in, right? It's not really an ice wall. It's just the shoreline, but maybe Antarctica is only a couple thousand miles wide. And then there's other oceans beyond it with other lands, maybe even another sun. All of these questions are questions that we're not allowed to ask. We're not allowed to explore. These are things that they don't want us to know. They've made it impossible to explore Antarctica.
And why did this treaty? Okay, so 1959. Why do you think this came about? What are the facts on this treaty exactly? Yeah, so I have heard. By the way, let me get into this. I'm a semi-conspiratorialist. I don't even know if that's a word. I just made it up. It's a conspiracy that the word exists.
I'll take it.
But I have seen a lot of stuff about Antarctica being super forbidden, super off limits. What's going on there? Is this happening? Is that happening? Why in 1959 was this treaty enacted?
2 reasons. One, excuse me. One, this is before environmentalism even became a word. And they said that we don't want to disrupt the migratory paths of the penguins. I'm not shitting you. The other one is it's the only unpolluted land on Earth, and we don't want anyone dropping a cigarette butt there. Take your choice. The other reason, there's a kind of a third reason, is they're afraid that the Russians could sneak underneath and pop up on the other side. Ridiculous. Okay.
Who said? Wait. Explain that one.
The countries are saying that other countries could sneak underneath the earth and come up and a surprise attack us, right? It's nonsense. The whole division of countries is nonsense. That's just to divide us. There was a worldwide civilization here. Have you looked into the mud floods in Tartaria yet? Yeah. So this is a rabbit hole that's so deep that you'll never hit the bottom. So you don't have to worry once you fall in. There was a advanced, there was an advanced civilization here in the 1800s, way more advanced than we are now, worldwide. And then there was a mud flood that happened that reset society in the late 1800s, early 1900s. This deception is not 2,000 years old. You know, the Greeks just figured it out 2,000 years ago. That's a funny story. It's a cool story. And it's not true, because in the 1920s here in America and across the plain, even into the 30s, they were teaching flat earth in public schools. I interviewed a woman named Ruth in February 2020. She's 102 years old. And I was interviewing her about the World's Fairs. And, you know, basically the World's Fairs were the takeover of the previous civilization that was here. And she had such a great memory. I asked her what they taught her in elementary school about the earth, and she said they taught me the earth was flat. This was in Hamden Public School in Connecticut. And then we did more research, and we found other people with the same story, and people in Croatia saying that they taught through the 1930s that the earth was flat. And we found newspaper articles, including that Hawaiian Gazette one that had the Japanese map on it, from the New York Journal, which is now the New York Times, of teachers being persecuted in the early 1900s for trying to teach heliocentrism, the ball model, in school. Public schools, not religious schools. So this takeover happened literally 100 years ago, less than 100 years ago, right? It seems to go in 100-year cycles. If you look at, in 1720, they had the plague. Everybody died. 1820, cholera. Everybody died. 1920, everybody got the jab-a-doo-ba-doo. I don't say the word and everybody wore masks and everybody died. And now we're in 2020. What's going on? History repeats itself again and again. We're on these cycles. And if we don't wake up now to what's going on, we're screwed. That's why I walked away from my own company. I had the American dream, went to college, worked in corporate America, left corporate America, started my own business, making more money than I ever thought I could make. And I walked away from it all to talk to people about what's the most important thing in the world. Hey, Dave, why are you talking about flat earth? The shape of the earth doesn't matter. I still have to go to work tomorrow. And that's the biggest thing of all. It's not the shape that matters. It's why the lie, right? Why would they lie? Because here's the thing. Everything you have in your life is the way that you think, right? You have this podcast because you thought of it. You had a desire. You created it. Everything you have, that shirt you're wearing, everything you have, you bring it into life. Little things, big things, life situations, life partners. It's all the way that you think. If you think I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life, you're going to be alone for the rest of your life. The universe conspires to give you what you think. So if you know this about how the world works, it's literally magical. And if you know that the world works this way and you want to control the world, you have to control people's minds. So what do? You put them in a prison that they can't see. And that prison is the globe. Just like Truman, the true man in the Truman Show. He wanted to be an explorer, but they said there's nothing else to explore. But his imagination outgrew that world. Well, they're controlling our imagination. They're controlling us with the news. They're steering our mind. The news, the acronym for the news, north, east, west, south. Okay. They're controlling your ability to think beyond the walls that you cannot see. That's the globe. There's more land. They don't want you to know that you're at the center of creation. They don't want you to know that there's free energy, right? They don't want you to know your spirituality, that there's more resources, unlimited resources. They don't want you to know that nuclear bombs are not real. Okay. They don't want you to know that you're at the center of creation and that you're special and that nobody has dominion over you. The only control these governments have over you or anybody is in your imagination. It's all your fault. Your fault. It's everyone's fault. All these people complying with the nonsense are the reason the nonsense continues. So why am I talking about flat earth? Because I can wake people up to the thing that happened in New York, the thing that happened in Connecticut at the school, the thing that happened at the Boston Marathon, and they just go right back to sleep. But when you wake someone up to flat earth, all of a sudden they can see, they realize they're at the center. They're not spinning out of control. They're on a flat stationary plane where they are in charge and nobody has control over you. This is why this is the most important topic of our time. If we ever get our freedoms back, if we push back enough, right? And a lot of people are pushing back now, but let's say we get our freedoms back. How long are we going to keep it? A year? 10 years? I don't think even that long, because if you're spinning out of control, lost in space, and the people that are controlling you, that are trying to control you, know the truth of this world, the power of your thoughts, we're going to lose it again. So we need to realize who we are, where we are, what we are, and get off their monopoly board. They control us with the globe prison for our mind, and they control us with their fake money, right? I got $10. What's it good for? Well, I could light a fire with it, or I can trade it to somebody for a sandwich because they think it's the same thing. They think it's worth something. Okay. We need to get off of their monopoly board, because on their monopoly board, you know what it says in the instructions if the bank runs out of money? It says just get some pieces of paper, write some more money down. You can just create some more by writing, you know. And that's the game we're playing in. It's a losing game for all of us, right? They control us with money, and they control our minds.
Let me ask
free
you
your mind. Yeah, free your minds. Get off of their board and start playing using privacy cryptocurrencies. Unless someone's got a better idea, it's the perfect money, and then we win, they lose.
I just had a chipmunk walk on my porch and leave. I feel like he was entering my monopoly board on a lighter note quickly. But so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You refer to, the higher power, or the monopoly masters, we'll say, as they.
Yeah.
Who is they in your mind?
The Council of Foreign Relations, the United Nations, the Bilderberg Group, the Club of Rome, what is that? The Royal Institute of International Affairs, and the Trilateral Commission. These form the round table. These are the small group of people that run our world. These are the bankers, the elite families, the royal families that keep their bloodlines pure. And these are the people that have genetic memory of what this true world is. They know this world, and they're keeping us as slaves. I don't know what happened with the mud floods or the cataclysm, whether it was man-made, God did it, natural, whatever. It doesn't matter. But there's people that knew the technology, knew the information from the previous world that have taken over. If you look, we're told the ridiculous story that Christopher Columbus discovered the world was round, and that, it discovered America. When we got here, our Capitol building was already here. Okay. Right. Many of the buildings, did you know that the Capitol building is built on top of another building? There's another building below the Capitol building. This happens all over the place. DC? In DC, yeah. Okay. If you look, go and just look at the incredible buildings that were built in the 1700s, 1800s, ignoring the pyramids, how were these things built? They didn't have cranes. They had horses and buggies. We couldn't build some of these things that we call churches now, and mosques, and all of these castles around the world on top of mountains, Machu Picchu. We couldn't build any of that now. Okay. We are not at the peak of civilization. We are 10 steps into the movie Idiocracy. Okay. Everyone thinks that we are the smartest. We are the dumbest society has ever been.
Humanity itself right now, modern day, you're saying?
100%.
Do you think advancements in technology is a distraction from something that's actually measuring, smarts?
They keep us trapped. They keep us trapped in their, with technology. This computer technology, this isn't new. Nobody in our realm discovered this. This is all old technology that they're breaking out on us. Electricity, the way we use it, it's dirty electricity. Okay. People go, oh, what about solar power? That's cool. Solar power is dirty electricity also. There was free energy back then. Okay. The World's Fair was lit up without wires, right? They lit up the friggin' world without wires. And, Westinghouse and JP Morgan's like, well, how are we going to bill people for this? And Tesla goes, no, you can't. This is free energy. And he goes, well, you can't meter it. Well, then we're not going to fund it. And they put him out of business and they hid it and they stole it from us. How do they control us? Money, energy, control the food, and control our minds. It's all complete and total bullshit.
So we're on a flat Earth. Antarctica is the outskirts of this board, we'll call it. What do you think is beyond Antarctica in this sense?
So again, anything beyond 60 degrees south, we don't know. We're not allowed to go out there. But there's many reports. One of them in my app, the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, there's links to stories of the Iron Republic, where a senator in the early 1900s, I think, or late 1800s, was just he retired. He's tired of the nonsense. Got on a ship with a crew, and he went to Antarctica, and he found an opening, and he was going just following it, exploring. Then he popped out into the ocean again. They was lost for a month. They didn't know where they were. Their compass wasn't working. The stars they couldn't navigate. Like, can't see the North Star. And then all of a sudden they came across some land. And as they approached the land, a boat came out. And the boat said, hey, welcome. You know, we're at the where are you from? And they're like, we're from America. And he's like, oh, this is the Iron Republic. And they're like, where's the Iron Republic? And he goes, well, it's on the other side of the Antarctic ice wall, about the same distance that America is. And they're like, what are you talking about? And so they went into the land there. And this is a series of articles that came out in Florida Magazine. And they talked about a society there that had electric cars and things levitating and flat screens and computers and a whole different society. And they're like, where did you guys come from? And they spoke English. And he goes, well, in the 1600s, we didn't like the tyranny that was going on. So we all left and we moved out here to free lands. Imagine that, tyranny and a choice to go to free lands. You can't have tyranny if you can go somewhere else. What's going on right now in the world, just backtracking a little bit, I predict, it could be wrong, in 6 months, all airlines will be shut down if they keep going the way they're going. All airlines will be shut down. They don't want us having freedom to travel. They don't want us communicating. They don't want any of that because they need to keep us in control.
Why? Okay, so why are they keeping us in control? Are we getting, from their perspective, are we getting on the verge of some sort of breakthrough or discovery in humanity?
People are waking up, and when people wake up, you need to separate them, you need to silence them, and you need to cull the population. This is the culling of the population that's going on right now, whether people want to realize it or not. There's plenty of people that are kind of awake, but they don't see what's happening. If we don't stop this, they want to reduce the population to 500 million people. Now, if you believe the world population, that's like 7 out of every 8 people, or 8 out of every 9. It's 95% of the population be culled. It's not like they have it written in stone or anything. Oh, wait a minute. They do have it written in stone. The Georgia Guidestones. Are you familiar with them?
I'm not.
So in Georgia, this monument popped up in 1981, cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, that has 10 commandments on it in like 12 different languages. And if you read, the top commandment is never let the population rise above 500 million again. Above 500 million again. Well, what is that saying? There is some crazy stuff going on right now, and people are refusing to look at it. But one other thing about the Georgia Guidestones, which is quite amazing, is there's a tiny little hole, like a quarter of an inch, that's drilled through one of the tablets. And if you look through it with your eye, if you line your eye up to it, guess what you see? You see the star Polaris. Do a time lapse, they circle all the way around. If we're corkscrewing through space in 4 different directions at once, we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, orbiting at 66,000 miles an hour, going 500,000 miles an hour, chasing the sun and moving sideways over 1,000,000 miles an hour, how the hell does Polaris never move from that hole? Get a straw, line it up as you're driving down the road. Just pick any object anywhere and look at it through the straw as you're driving down the road. So how long can you keep it in that? You can't do it at all.
Let me ask you this. So obviously, in the context of this conversation, the danger for they is us waking up.
Yep.
have you ever experienced anything bizarre as you've been speaking out? Like people say they see government vans outside their house and whatnot.
Yeah, it happens. You know, we get trolls following us. Like on your video, on your audio, you will get a guy named Jose whatever and Mr. Green Cheese or whatever. These guys will show up in your chat. They'll comment to every one of your commenters. They'll tell you that I'm a scammer, that I'm lying. They'll just say all this stuff, but they'll never offer a single proof of the globe because they don't have any. Go look at their channels; they're empty, and they spend their entire life following me everywhere I go. Okay. And they want to discourage me. They want to discourage people. And the problem is comments really do affect people, even me. Like I'm watching a video, I'm like, wow, it's really good. And then all of a sudden I look in the comments and I'm like, oh, this blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, well, maybe I got to think about that again. And it's all just nonsense. They've convinced us, you know, people are afraid of what other people think of them. They're afraid if they don't go with the majority that they'll be outcast. So they're afraid. They believe that if a lot of people think it, it must be true. Okay. That's nonsense. The problem is science is not peer reviewed. Peer reviewed is the gatekeeper for science. Like if you come up with an idea, you have to get all the other people that are already educated into what the current belief is to agree with it. And they're not going to because they're going to lose their funding, right? If an astrophysicist realized his entire life is a joke, it's not fun. Not fun. It's not good for him.
So what is NASA then in your eyes? What are all the photos, all the space travel funding?
Yeah. So here's the thing. If you look at, you know, people say, well, what about the photos, you know, from NASA? NASA shows us these beautiful little planets when in reality use the best optics and we're seeing something completely different. We're seeing pulsing orbs of energy when we look at stars. You know, when you look at Mars, it's a pulsing orb. It's not this dusty, dirty ball, right? These are things that are here within our atmosphere. And again, now we can't reach out and touch Mars, but NASA tells us how big it is and how far it is and shows us pictures from the rover, which is nonsense. And you can prove that what we're seeing isn't what they're saying because the brightness doesn't obey the inverse square law of light and the sizes don't work at all. I mean, if you look at stars, they look like pulsing orbs. They kind of look like they're underwater. Right. But NASA tells us these beautiful stories. You know, they'll show us, you know, pictures of planets and they use the same picture again and again in different times. Like, how come the storms on Jupiter are the same 10 years apart? You know, doesn't make any sense. They'll show us a picture from Mars and like, oh, look, the rover got a little selfie of himself. But then we find a picture of Greenland. That's the exact same hill with the exact same rocks, the exact same lines. And they won't address it. They won't address it at all. Okay. When you look at you know, the stuff that they if you look at the photos of Earth, NASA admits they don't have any photos of Earth, but people still defend it. You know, the guy that made the blue marble, which was the one that was on everyone's iPhone, he admitted he made it in Photoshop. He was lazy too. He used the same clouds again and again. Okay. NASA has been proven to be liars. You only need to prove them once. And you know, then what are you going to do? Why are you going to keep believing unless, you know, you're just too attached to the globe to admit that you've been lied to? NASA uses a snake tongue as its logo. NASA in Hebrew means to deceive. Right? You look at the photos of Jupiter, Saturn, I mean, the Voyager took years ago, and you put it into Photoshop and you crank up the levels, you can see that they put it together really crappily. They didn't expect us to have these tools to analyze their nonsense. Right? You look at the lunar orbiter, which was made in 1972, and the SR-71, which was built in 1964. Ridiculous. The lunar rover or lander looks like a homeless tweaker shelter made by fifth graders out of paper mache and nonsense. Okay. Did you know that NASA does their training in an underwater pool called the National Buoyancy Lab? And then you have green screens in the pool. Did you know that just before the Apollo missions, NASA administrators, science fiction writers, Arthur C. Clarke, Stanley Kubrick, movie maker. They all got together in Hollywood. What's that about? What were they doing? They told us in 2017 that the Earth is the global pollution is really bad. And look how dim the Earth is, but they forgot to change the clouds. From 1978 to 2017, the clouds never changed. That just shows you that they're lying. That right there unwinds it far enough to go back to we never went to the moon. And in the National Buoyancy Lab, where they have an underwater replica of the space station, which I call the International Fake Station, they have a poster on the wall. When you look at it closely, it's a Vitruvian man inside of a dome being handed a power tool by a scuba diver and a rocket trying to break through the dome. Why do they have that in the National Buoyancy Lab? Why are astronauts training underwater where everything's trying to get into their suit when in fact everything in space would be the opposite? How come they don't explode like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? You know, if you're in a suit and you go into no pressure or low pressure, the suit's going to blow up like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Doesn't happen in NASA. Doesn't happen. When they're on the International Fake Station, they're playing with stuff in the air, floating CGI objects. Things go right through their hands. Sometimes astronauts are fade in and fade out. All of these things happen. We see them getting caught in their wires when they try to do their little flips. Okay. Catch them once, it's over. Catch them a million times, people don't even fucking care. Excuse my language.
Yeah, you can swear.
Sometimes, you know, they're doing their stuff, flipping their hat and microphone around, and in the background, they always have a guy float by. But if you zoom in, you can see his harness and the wires. And the NASA apologists will say, oh, they wear harnesses for safety. Like, what? They're supposedly in zero G, but they're hanging from wires. Explain that.
So you have all of the evidence on your side of the argument in the world. It's clear, and the flat world, sorry, in the world. So you said you got into this 2015, or you were introduced to it 2015. 6 years later, full-fledged, you're in.
I'm offering 3 Bitcoins for 1 proof of the globe. Nobody's claimed their Bitcoins yet. No one's really even tried. And the ones that tried just haven't even taken the challenge properly. Because in the challenge, I say I have an app called the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. And there's a daily video every day. You got to watch the daily video every day for 2 weeks. And then if you still think the Earth is a globe, you can send it to me and you win 3 Bitcoins. But you have to hit the frequently asked questions first, because the question that you have has already been answered. It's in there. And the people that send me stuff didn't take the challenge because they didn't look. They didn't look.
So my question leading up to that, since you discovered this, how has your life, how do you live differently? How do you use this for your advantage?
Well, it's summer here in Connecticut, and I've been out on my boat more times than most people will on their entire lives of owning their boat just this summer. I no longer have to go to an office. I am talking to people about stuff that I want to talk about, not about stupid shit at the water cooler. I am supporting myself fine. I've made new friends. I see the world for what it is. I'm not in fear of the COVIDs. I see through it all. When you see a story, Kim Jong-un's getting ready to press the nuclear bomb, does that put any fear in your body? Probably does. But if you knew the fact that nuclear bombs don't exist, then how would you feel? Kim Jong-un is just a retarded guy in an institution that they take out, put in front of a green screen. He claps and smiles when he has a whole bunch of CGI crap behind him, green screen. If you look at the pictures of him when he has tons of troops behind him, zoom in on those troops. They're stepped and repeated. It's the same number of guys stepped again and again and again and again. The tanks, the missiles, they're just hollow tubes. They're balloons. When you see all this stuff with SpaceX going up into space, and you realize it's nonsense, right? Nobody's going into space. And if you actually take the time to look at their stuff, their vertical landings, their rocket ships that take off and land, You can tell that it's complete and total CGI garbage. Nobody has ever gone up in a rocket except like
What
a
do you
stuntman.
think about American politics then? What do you think about our presidential races? What's the point of it? What was the point of Trump, Obama, now
It's to make
Biden?
you feel. It's to make you feel that you have a choice, left hand or right hand. Same monster. Okay, doesn't matter. Now, was Trump somebody that was outside of the system? Maybe. Was Hillary supposed to win? I think so. But the number of people that voted for Trump, whether he's a good guy or bad guy, I'm not even saying, overwhelmed their algorithms, and they had to panic and they had to change everything. If you look at what's going on in the election, I mean, Joe Biden is the most voted for president in history. That's believable, right? Okay. The guy can't even tie his shoes at this point, and he's the president of the United States. Please, it's all just a puppet show. There hasn't been a real president for, I don't know, 40 years or whatever. I forget where they drew the line, where if you look into the actually law of the land, there is no more presidents. There is no presidents. They're just corporate dictators. It's all fake. This video I'm showing you behind me is supposedly a real. This is a 50,000 pound rocket coming down and landing, whole bunch of CGI smoke. It's all nonsense. It's all complete and total nonsense. And anybody with any discernment can look at it and see a million problems with these landings and launches by SpaceX. Jeff Bezos, when he supposedly went up into space the other day, that's ridiculous.
Just going to ask you about this.
Yeah. You know what a zero-G plane is? So the zero-G plane is it does a parabolic arc, and you get about 25 to 45 seconds of weightlessness, right? So they always have, a girl with the long hair flipping around. This is on a zero-G plane. This isn't even on his plane. It's just outfitted to look like that. And the plane goes up. Richard Branson looked like he was about to throw up. He probably had to do like 10 or 15 takes to get the footage. They say he had 4.5 minutes of weightlessness. Show me the video unedited. All we'll get is 3, 4, 5 second clips at a time of him floating around. Okay. It's all done in a whole bunch of different takes, right? You can float in an airplane doing a parabolic arc. And that's all it is. And then we actually exposed it so much that Neil deGrasse Tyson, the high priest of scientism, came out and moved the globe post again. He said, well, Jeff Bezos didn't really go to space. He kind of just went up and, and got weightlessness. And he admitted that's what it was, because they have to own it to maintain control of it. So it's exposed.
So let's go back to some random conspiracies. I want to know how they connect to because you're saying flat Earth is the granddaddy of them all. And I'm sorry if conspiracy is a offensive word. Okay, let's take the JFK assassination and just all the different 9/11, all the different politically charged conspiracies. Why are they in place overall?
This 9/11 was the start of the takeover. It was to control our minds. They can't go and the elite know the karmic events of actually breaking someone's free will. Our goal here, our job here, is to maintain control of our soul. And the way you do that is not break anyone else's free will and live your life to its fullest. And they wanted to start this population reduction. They wanted to start this indoctrination. And so they got us to pound the war drums. I pounded the war drums after 9/11. I'm like, we have to go get those fuckers. And they did that. So now you got all these people in the military. And now come September, they all have to have the jabba jabba do. And that is going to cause them not to be able to think properly when they're asked to do other things that are going to be unspeakable, right? When they're talking about mandates for the jabba jabba do, you'll have automaton soldiers that can't think. There's people now that are saying, after they got it, they just don't feel the same. They can't feel God, whatever. This is what's going on in the next couple months is going to be insane. So 9/11, if you do you believe the official story of 9/11? What's your point? What's your stance?
I haven't looked into it enough.
All right. So
Really.
I'm going to give you a website in a minute, and it's all the information you need. It's all everything that used to be on YouTube that's no longer there. But just think about this: on businessmen love early morning flights during the week from the East Coast to the West Coast because you can get there like it's 6 a.m. flight, get there at 10 a.m. West Coast time, and you have your whole business day. There's about 30 to 35 flights every single weekday, and they're always sold out. They're booked out in advance. First class is sold out in advance. And on the morning of 9/11, I believe there was 34 flights. All of them were sold out, except 4 were only 20% full.
The flight?
All 4 flights that were supposedly hijacked were only 20% full. And 2 of them weren't even scheduled to fly that day. How did they get passengers to fly? Okay. And then you could start looking at the damage. Look at the Pentagon. A 747, not 747, whatever, 757, hit it at ground level. It made a hole, a perfectly circular hole, way smaller than the circumference of the fuselage. And all of the windows to the side were not broken. So the official story is that the plane, that the wings folded back into the plane, it went through the hole. The fires were so hot that the plane vaporized, including the 9-ton titanium engines. The plane that was supposed to hit Building 7 in their simulation, something went wrong, and they had to fake crash it in Shanksville. And the official story there is unbelievable. It hits at such a steep angle at such a hard speed that the ground liquefied, swallowed the entire airplane so deep that it cannot be ever dug out. That's ridiculous. People don't even believe the official story. That's the official story. Building 7, which was supposed to be fake hit by that fake airplane, fell into its own footprint at 5:20 p.m. The CNN and the BBC announced it 20 minutes in advance before it fell. Never in the history of steel reinforced buildings has a building collapsed, except on 9/11, where 3 of them did. Building 6, people never even heard of Building 6. 10 stories tall, a whole city block. The entire inside, or most of the inside of the building, disappeared all the way down to the basement with no rubble down there. Where'd it go? These are questions that you're not allowed to ask. These are questions that when you do ask them, they will make up a whole bunch of crazy stories. Oh, you believe in space aliens that did it. You know, that's called straw manning. Not true. Or gaslighting, whatever you want to call it. On 9/11, the official story is the way they figured it out so fast is the airplane hit the building in New York, where the actual strong part of the building was on the outside. So the aluminum airplane goes through a steel building. It completely disappears inside of the building where none of it falls down to the street. All of it would fall down to the street and pops through the other side, going through the central core columns, which are another steel reinforced, steel beams, somehow makes it through there. The nose comes out the other side. For a second, you see it, and it doesn't even have a dent. So that shows you that that's nonsense. But one of the hijackers' passports flew down to the street and landed right next to an FBI agent. This is the official story. This is insanity. Anyone that believes the official story of 9/11 is just ignorant. And after hearing this, willfully ignorant. If you want to find all of the information on 9/11 and all of these other hoaxes, stoplookthink.com. Just stoplookthink.com.
Alrighty. So all this being said, if you're a naysayer, you're probably sitting there, you're thinking, you know what, fuck this, fuck Dave, fuck flat Earth. And why are you thinking that? Because it makes you feel very unsettled. It flips your reality on its head. Literally, it kind of goes against everything you know. Dave, how did you get over how did you get over that? Because I'm sure you had that mental hurdle. You're like, dude, what the
It
fuck?
was unbelievable. It was so difficult. But once you realize, when I first heard about flat Earth, I decided to keep it quiet because I'm like, this is going to discredit all the work I've done on everything else. And people are going to think I'm insane. But then after a couple months, I was like, wait a minute, this has to be talked about. And I, I was like, what difference does it make? There's nothing I could do about it. I had that same attitude, but that's Stockholm syndrome right there. That is, you're a prisoner and you're like, what difference? I might as well just be a prisoner my whole life. It's fine. I've been doing pretty well. They feed me 3 meals a day. It's okay. They let me go in the yard every once in a while. That you're a prisoner. If you don't care that you're being lied to about who you are, where you are, what this place is, the power of your mind, that all of your God-given rights are being taken away from you, you're a prisoner. You're suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Okay. So this is the most important thing of our lives. They don't want us, I don't know, your religious beliefs or your spiritual beliefs. I wouldn't call myself religious. Before Flat Earth, I was probably a full-on atheist. I believed that we evolved from pond scum after nothing exploded, became everything in a space vacuum. Beautiful story. And, then a monkey had a retarded baby and it became a human. I get it. It's so ridiculous. It's dumb. But then when I understood, okay, the Big Bang is nonsense and this place is intelligently created, I was like, wait a minute. There's a creator. Fuck. And now I have to deal with that. So once and people say, well, who's the creator? Where'd the creator come from? I don't know. That's your own journey. You figure that out. That's not for anybody to tell you. You have to figure that out. You have to figure out your relationship with this creation. Was it aliens? Was it God? Was it, I don't know. Was it the Anunnaki? You can believe whatever you want, but this place was intelligently designed. And where you go with that, it's amazing. So you asked me earlier, how did my life change? My life is amazing right now. Amazing. I friggin' love it. I couldn't imagine having the friends that I have, the experiences that I'm having. I mean, the world's fucked right now, but I'm having a great time because I haven't put a shame face muzzle on once yet. Not once. Okay.
Face muzzle. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's my God-given right. My facial expressions, my ability to speak and smile. That's my God-given right. You're not taking that from me.
Right. Have you gotten the virus, we'll call it?
Don't the you have to understand what it is, and that's not something you're allowed to see here. But if you go to stoplookthink.com, there's plenty of information there. Check it out. Listen to the doctors that they're silencing. The alphabet letters that begin after B and C and back to B again, they're not elected. They're going against science. If you want the truth, start at stoplookthink.com. Go to I'll promote a podcast I have no relation to. Stu Peters. Check out Stu Peters. Stu, Stew Peters. It's on every podcast platform. Start listening to his shows and your mind will be blown. This guy is really exposing what's going on. Okay. Just so you know, there is nothing, any circumstance, no matter what, without exception, that would ever make me take the jabba jabba do.
I'm taking it. Don't worry. Okay. This was a lot this is a lot because I didn't even know what I was getting into. I didn't know how many evidence points you had.
Yeah. No. And I didn't even scratch the surface. Here's the thing. It's way easier to just forget about all of this and go back into the matrix. Take the blue pill, have your steak, go to your job, do what you want, right? Because it's way easier. But once you are willing to take the leap and rip out the childhood beliefs that you have based on nothing, right? The reason you believe that the earth is a globe was taught to you before you could speak. And the only thing you've ever been shown is cartoons. Okay. Only thing you've ever been shown is cartoons. And people cling onto it because they teach it to us before we're 7 and up until the age of 7, you really don't have the ability to discern and argue against things that you're hearing. And so that becomes your core belief and you build your whole life around it. But the truth is you're being lied to and you're being controlled with cartoons. Everything is cartoons.
There it is, right there. Everything's cartoons. I'm not going to be Kurt's a cowardly dog. I'm not a coward.
Yeah.
Maybe you are. It's up to you guys. But Dave, my world it's upside down right now. Thank you for putting my mind.
It's not upside down. It's level. You're
on level. My mind is level.
Your mind might be spinning out of control, but you're not spinning out of control. So here's the thing. If you want to learn more about this, don't bother Googling it, because they're going to serve you crap. They're going to serve you shills, Buy Man Dan and Fight the Fat Shirt. These guys are going to show up and they're going to argue with their accents, and they're going to sound so, they're going to ridicule flat earthers. Or you can use your own mind. And you won't be able to find the stuff on YouTube. You Google my YouTube channel, DITRH, it doesn't even show up for people. Okay. Most of the time. Right. So I created an app. It's called the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. It's by Blue Water Bay. They already have a fake one by the same name that are trying to gatekeep people. You can tell mine if you have mine, because one, it's by Blue Water Bay, and two, it's the highest rated app in the App Store and the Google Play Store. Just go read the reviews. Okay. That'll turn you into a flat earther. Just read the reviews. It's $3 and that's it. One-time charge. There is a pop-up that says, would you like to subscribe? No ads, exit out, goes away. You don't need to subscribe. Okay. And then what I say is just watch the daily video. It's just worth it for the daily videos. And then hit the frequently asked questions, hit the Tataria button, hit the history of the flat earth button. Make sure you've got 5 hours, right? When you hit that button, all right, that one will blow you away. Everyone's, my videos on my channel, DITRH, the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. My videos are like 1, 2, 3 minutes. If I make a 5-minute video, I'm like, who's going to watch this? It's 5 minutes. I'm a short video guy, right? Everyone that I tell to watch the history of flat earth, it's just over 5 hours. Like, people's like, I'm not going to watch the whole thing. Let me just watch a few minutes. They watch 10 minutes. Then they go, let me watch 10 more minutes. And then they watch the whole thing. If you watch 20 minutes, you're in for 5 hours. There's no way to get out. Every single person, and guaranteed you'll watch it again. 5 hour video. Crazy.
I'm going to go look at it. I'm going to go look at it right now. And Dave, thank you. Thank you for coming on. Seriously, I'm dead serious. I need to go take a break inside and just kind of contemplate life.
You can go curl up in the corner and cry for a little while. That'll help you get started.
So
if you forget the name of my app, which is a really long name, the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, just remember flatearthdave.com, flatearthdave.com. That'll take you to my podcast. That'll take you to the app. It'll take you to a bunch of resources. It'll take you deep inside the rabbit hole.
Boom. And there's no coming back out.
All right, man.
Thank you, Dave. Live bold, everybody.
All right. See ya.